великой победы. Ура!
There is a sound in this war. Behind the artillery and the screams, there is another sound. The sound of a machine. Relentless, impersonal, and hungry. It is a sound that has echoed across the plains of Russia and Ukraine for over a century. It is the sound of the meat grinder. And its most terrifying characteristic is not that it consumes men, but that it ensures they continue to feed on it. This is an investigation into the anatomy of obedience, about why in the 21st century men still march silently to their deaths. The scale of the losses in Ukraine is so vast that it defies human comprehension. We are not facing a tragic battle, we are facing a demographic event. According to a joint investigation by BBC Russia, Mediazona, and independent Russian journalists, confirmed Russian military deaths surpassed 50,000 by early 2024. But this is only the visible tip of the iceberg. When you include the Wagner Group's private army, the Donbass separatist militias, and the seriously wounded, the men who will never fight again, reliable estimates from Western intelligence agencies put the total Russian casualties at well over 350,000. Let's stick with that number, 350,000. That's more than the entire population of cities like Cardiff, Wales, or Poznan, Poland. It's a number that eclipses the Soviet Union's entire 10-year campaign in Afghanistan, which saw approximately 15,000 deaths. It's more than the combined fatalities of the two Chechen wars. In the nearly year-long Battle of Bakhmut, American intelligence suggests Russia suffered over 100,000 casualties, trading lives for meters of rubble. This is not war as a strategic contest, it is war redefined as industrial-scale attrition led by humans. So who are these men? And why do they leave in the first place? The answers here are complex, but they form only the outermost layer of the onion. The financial incentive is powerful and very real. In economically depressed republics like Buryatia, Dagestan, and Siberia, recruitment agencies offer signing bonuses that can reach $5,000 to $10,000. To put this in context, the average monthly salary in these regions can be as high as $400. This is a life-changing sum. They are also promised a steady monthly salary far above local norms and substantial payments to their families, a form of life insurance their current poverty could never afford. There is also the powerful and overarching narrative. Through state television, influencers, and the writings of philosopher Alexander Dugin about a spiritual war for Eurasian civilization, the Kremlin sells a story. It's a story of existential threat from a Nazified Ukraine and a decadent West, of the restoration of Russia's historical glory, and for many young people who feel marginalized, it offers a powerful sense of purpose, a chance to be a hero in a national epic. But these factors, money and mythology, are the key that starts the engine. They are utterly incapable of explaining what happens next. They cannot explain the continued obedience when that promised hero finds himself in a freezing trench, hungry, poorly armed, watching his new friends being torn apart by shrapnel, and then being ordered to run into the same fire. Faced with certain and meaningless death, abstract bonuses and patriotic slogans evaporate. It is then that the true machinery of control reveals itself. Long before a soldier sees a Ukrainian drone, he must first survive the gauntlet of his own army. The true forging of obedience happens in the barracks, through a system of institutionalized terror known as Dedovshchina, the rule of the grandfathers. This is not simple hazing. It is a calculated, systematic process of dehumanization designed to break the individual will and rebuild a man into a compliant, interchangeable part. From their first day, new conscripts, the malady, become the property of older soldiers, the dedyi. The abuse is ritualistic and extreme, savage, scheduled beatings, systematic extortion where soldiers are forced to wire their meager wages to their tormentors, forced labor, and in countless cases, sexual violence and rape. The goal is absolute submission, the complete eradication of the civilian self. The human rights organization, the Committee of Soldiers' Mothers of Russia, has been documenting this for decades. They estimate that over 2/3 of conscripts experience severe physical abuse and a significant portion experience extortion. They have case files that read like horror scripts. In 2006, Private Roman Sudzenko was tortured so relentlessly by senior conscripts that he developed severe gangrene. By the time he was discovered, it was too late. His legs and genitals had to be amputated to save his life. In 2018, in a remote base, recruit Rakim Aziv was found dead. The official report listed suicide, but his family found that someone had used a razor blade to carve a vulgar slur into his forehead, a scene hauntingly reminiscent of the film Inglourious Bastard. This system is psychologically diabolical. It operates on a cycle where the victim is eventually forced to become the perpetrator. After enduring months of abuse, a soldier is expected to inflict the same torture on the next wave of recruits. This process accomplishes two things. It perpetuates the system automatically, and it fundamentally rewires the soldier's psyche. It teaches him that violence is the sole currency of power and that hierarchy is enforced through pain. His individual morality, his sense of right and wrong, is systematically erased and replaced with a stark, survival-based calculation: obey or be crushed. This conditioning does not end when the unit deploys. It is meticulously exported to the front lines, where the violence simply changes form and becomes even more direct. The Russian military has reinstated one of the most feared tactics from Stalin's Great Patriotic War, the use of barrier troops or zagradotriety. Their explicit orders are to prevent any unauthorized retreat by any means necessary, including shooting their own comrades. Intercepted radio communications, later publicized by Ukrainian intelligence, are chillingly clear. Commanders can be heard issuing threats: the blocking detachment is in position. Any retreat will be considered desertion and liquidated on the spot. For those who hesitate, complain, or show cowardice, the punishment is swift and brutal. They are not sent to a court-martial. They are beaten, imprisoned in makeshift punishment pits, water-filled holes in the ground that soldiers cynically call zindans, or executed summarily. Their deaths are then officially recorded as killed in action, or missing, their families often receiving no true explanation. This environment of extreme, omnipresent coercion creates a state of total desensitization. The constant exposure to brutality, whether suffering it, witnessing it, or being forced to administer it, makes it the new normal. In this twisted reality, the fear of your own commander, the man behind you with a gun, becomes infinitely more real, more immediate, and more terrifying than the abstract fear of a drone strike or an artillery shell from the enemy you cannot see. To view this as a unique invention of Vladimir Putin's Russia is to misunderstand it completely. This is a deep and enduring pathology in Russian and Soviet military history, a thread of expendability woven into the very fabric of the state's relationship with its people. The Tsarist armies enforced discipline with the knout, a brutal whip that could cripple a man. But the modern blueprint was cast by Joseph Stalin during World War II. In 1942, as the German army advanced, Stalin issued Order No. 227, known by its infamous slogan, "Not a step back." It formally authorized the creation of barrier troops to shoot panic mongers and cowards on sight, cementing the doctrine that the soldier was a disposable asset. This philosophy continued in Afghanistan in the 1980s, where Dedovshchina ran rampant, and the phenomenon of fragging, where conscripts would use grenades to kill their own brutally abusive officers, became so common it had to be addressed by high command. The war in Chechnya in the 1990s saw ill-equipped, terrified conscripts thrown into urban combat with similarly catastrophic results. The war in Ukraine is not an anomaly. It is the culmination of this centuries-old tradition, now enhanced by modern propaganda and financial leverage. What is the end result of this system on the human mind? We turn to Dr. Anya Petrova, a specialist in post-Soviet trauma and conflict psychology. A clip of an expert or the narrator paraphrasing. Expert voice paraphrase, what we see is a complete displacement of fear. The external enemy becomes a secondary concern. The primary all-consuming threat is the structure that is supposed to protect you. This creates a state of learned helplessness and profound moral injury. The self shatters. You don't follow orders out of loyalty or belief. You follow them because you are psychologically broken. Your agency has been systematically destroyed. This also explains the extreme violence against civilians. For a broken man who has only known violence as a language, committing atrocities can be a perverted way to reclaim a shred of power and agency in a world where they have none. This has dire implications that extend far beyond the battlefield. It means the Russian High Command has calculated a sustainable for them rate of attrition. They believe they can continue to feed this machine for years, trading tens of thousands of lives for minor territorial gains, confident that the machinery of coercion will continue to produce just enough broken, obedient men to keep the front line from collapsing. It is a strategy that views demographics not as a limit but as a renewable resource. And so, the paradox is solved. The Russian soldier does not revolt because the system is a perfect self-sustaining circuit of fear. He is not a fanatic, he is a victim. He marches forward not out of courage or conviction, but because the terror behind him is a tangible, immediate force, while the death ahead is merely a statistical probability. He is the final tragic product of a machine that has perfected the art of grinding down the human spirit. And as long as the machine is fed, the grinding sound will not stop.